All right, we start with our focus in Washington. Canada's newly elected Prime Minister Mark Carney is heading to the White House for what really is a high-stakes meeting with President Donald Trump. Now, these two leaders have been fighting it out over tariffs and Trump's consistent push to make Canada the 51st state. CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand is tracking all of this for us from the White House and joins us now. Natalie, good morning to you. Many could say that Carney wouldn't have been elected if it were not for his stance against Donald Trump and tariffs. So what can we expect today?
Yeah, Errol, that's why watching this meeting is going to be so fascinating, the tone and interaction between these two leaders, because as you noted, Carney campaigned on speaking out against President Trump's actions when it comes to tariffs and talking about Canada as the 51st state. And he, vowed to Canadians to stand up to this administration. But now he is here meeting with President Trump for the very first time at a time of these heightened trade tensions when a number of tariffs that are impacting Canada remain in place. If you think about auto parts, steel and aluminum, also 25% on goods not covered by that previous U.S., Mexico, Canada trade agreement. So tariffs, no doubt, will be at the top of the agenda during this initial meeting. But in speaking to business stakeholders, the Business Council of Canada, they say that they hope this meeting serves as an initial opportunity to really reset this relationship and really talk about some of these broader trade issues, so critical because these two North American economies are so intertwined. Canada, of course, a top trading partner of the U.S.
Natalie, what's interesting is there's not a lot of warmth in the language coming from the White House. The Trump administration in many ways seems somewhat indifferent to Carney's visit, describing this as really an all-working appointment. Why is that?
Kind of nonchalant, and especially given the heated rhetoric that we've seen leading up to this, it's really hard to know what to expect. Prime Minister Carney, for his part, previewed he's expecting difficult but constructive discussions. Errol, I also want to note, we've seen so many different foreign leaders come here to the White House and meet with President Trump, especially as these trade negotiations continue with dozens of countries. The White House kind of saying, this is yet another foreign leader coming to try and make a deal with President Trump.
And Natalie, I want to ask you quickly about another news item that's just crossing the wires that we're getting here in our newsroom, which is that Columbia University has just announced it's laying off nearly 180 employees. And this is in the wake of the Trump administration cutting federal funding for research grants. They're doing the same thing as far as cutting funding when it comes to Harvard as well. What can you tell us about this development?
Yeah, yet another escalation and impact of this intensifying fight between the Trump administration and these top universities. As you noted, Columbia announcing just this morning that they would have to cut around 180 employees who were supported by these federally funded grants, saying that that represents about 20% of individuals. In a statement, they said in part, moving forward, we will be running lighter footprints of research infrastructure in some areas and in others maintaining a level of research continuity as we pursue alternate funding sources. Unclear at this point what research will be impacted, but we know, Errol, that back in March, the administration announced it was canceling around $400 million in federal funding to Columbia, citing anti-Semitism. This is in response to pro-Palestinian demonstrations, that we've seen in recent years. But Columbia also notes in this new letter that it hopes to continue to try and work with the government to restore some of these partnerships, because as we know, as we've been hearing from these universities, their research is so critical to what they do and to really helping the public at large, Errol.
We're watching some of the country's leading research institutions really shrink here during the Trump administration's. Natalie Brand with all the latest. Thank you for that. Now, as we mentioned, President Trump and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney are meeting at the White House soon this morning in hopes of getting a trade deal done.